I never ever even considered the thought of pursuing art at any point prior to 2018, 2019. As a military brat, creativity in our house was extremely important. Putting your mind to creative outlets was paramount in my house. So my mother was an art teacher in the past, and growing up, even though we weren't focused on art as a primary thing, it was always something that was in our house and constantly around us. Growing up in the military environment, it was very much, life lived in its boxes. Because of the background that I grew up in, it just wasn't an option. It wasn't even something real in my brain that could manifest itself. I was very much stuck in a headspace of I was going to work for some corporate company for 20, 25 years, retire, and be finished. And along the way, along that journey of the corporate career, you realize over time things start to get a little unsettling. You realize I might not be in the right place. I think growing up, there were a few seeds that were planted along the way, and it just took 30 years for them to bloom. For one, growing up in Germany, surrounded by museums, so we would actually be able to learn about some of these artists and styles of art and times of art in Europe, and actually be able to go and visit these museums, learn the stories from people who have firsthand knowledge of them, see the art in its actual environment. So I think that might have been a seed. Also, my mother being an art teacher when I was young was probably another seed that was planted. Skateboarding is another one for me. So skateboarding was a major part of my life. I was a major skateboarder. Me and my friends, that's all we did for many, many years. I think it has a big influence on the art that I do now. Because I fell in love with the more graphic design style in skateboard art, I think when I started to pursue art on my own, I think my brain was just naturally kind of conditioned to go to that route because of what I grew up liking. Artists like Don Pendleton, Evan Hecox, these are artists who have a prominent name in the skateboarding community because of the work that they do. I found myself like falling in love with their style of work, yeah.
I've learned how to use them.
Me too, yeah. I like it, but they do make everything kind of like fuzzy, so I'm trying to go with something clear.
My current art journey started in this house right here. So my wife and I, we bought our house 8 years ago now, and when you buy a house, it was one of the list of things you had to do. We had to paint, we had to put fans up, we had to change some of the floors, you got to move furniture in. Painting was just on the list of things that you needed to do. It was just one of the line items that had to get done. I had an idea for the kitchen. And the first thing that pops up around 2018 time is put tape up on the wall in random configurations and then just fill in the random shapes. So I filled in the shapes and pulled the tape down, and I just loved what it did for the kitchen. In that time that I painted the kitchen, I found myself falling in love with something that I'd never realized. I originally fell in love with what changing the color on one wall in a room could do for somebody's feelings, could do for somebody's like emotions in space. You could go into a room, it could be all white, you could feel one way, you could change one of those walls to red or blue or green, and that person's gonna feel completely different in that space, simply because of the color on the wall. There was something really powerful in that, and I fell in love with that originally in painting. When people started to reach out and ask me to paint for them, the feeling was next level, because I'd never ever been approached in that way in any other thing that I'd ever done in my life. There was something powerful about actually being able to give them something that I'm responsible for. This is not a mandate from a boss. It's not a mandate from a director that you need to do X, Y, or Z. Your client is your boss, but they're not really your boss. They are just kind of, they like what you do and they want to kind of open it up to you. Most artists, they find themselves, they do one style, or they find themselves in a style, and then people will reach out to them for that particular style. I found myself, because of the origins of where I started painting from, what would end up happening is I never saw my art, I never saw clients' art as my own. It was always theirs. What do you need me to do for you? But over time, you start to run into folks who are like, I just like you and I like the style of work that you do. What would you think would work best in here? It was amazing to have people reach out and actually want to work with me because of what they've seen me do, and them being open to my ideas. I'd never been approached and had my ideas been taken seriously. I was just sort of, I almost like a little corporate lemming. You do what you're told, and then you get good at the job because you've just learned all the steps. But in art, it's very different. The name Wayward Walls is a funny one because I actually wasn't sure what to name the company. Once I had set out and decided I'm going to start the LLC, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, make my little side business. The name, and I can show you, I've got the notebook upstairs. I floated a ton of names on a piece of paper just upstairs in a notebook. So initially, the name was based off of the style of line work that I was doing. Random configuration of lines, they were wayward, right? Over time, what I've found myself realizing is that wayward may not have been specific to the style of work that I was doing, but my approach to the way that I do my work and why and how I do it. I like to call myself a space maker. I like to transform spaces. In fact, the wall that I painted for the Shine Mural Festival in 2021, I literally, just this year, have learned to appreciate that wall and what it did for me. Just this year. For the past 4 years, I'll drive by it, and don't get me wrong, I'm stoked on it. But I was stoked on the wall for very different reasons. I was stoked on that Shine wall for its scale, for the precision in the line work, for the composition in some of the areas. But the art, I didn't like at all. And I failed to recognize that this was my art journey at that time. This is where I was at that time. And so I have come, again, this just happened this year. I can go by that wall and look at it and absolutely love it because it's a representation of where I was at that time. And I recognize I'd probably never paint that way again now. However, it was a representation of that time and where I was at. So during the pandemic, cities around America, they were doing the Black Lives Matter murals in the streets. I remember looking at them and being like, this is super cool. Like at the time, the art was super, super cool to put those messages, to put that message in the street. Organization aside, to put that message in the street was powerful. And I remember being like, this is really cool. And then I happened to randomly get called for one while I'm painting in a business in Channelside. It was almost poetic because I had literally been thinking about these things, and all of a sudden this lady that I do not know reaches out and is like, hey, your name was given to me. Would you be interested in painting a letter in the Black Lives Matter mural? I didn't even, at that time when I got called for the Black Lives Matter mural, I didn't even call what I did art. I didn't call myself an artist because I was in more of a painter's world. I was in a world of, I wasn't around artists at all for the first couple of years. I was surrounded by drywallers and plumbers and electricians, and I didn't call what I did art because I didn't think of it. I thought of it as like design stuff. So I had a saying, artists call me a painter and painters called me an artist. And so by being invited to these things, the Black Lives Matter mural and then the Shine Mural Festival, it sort of opened the window of considering what I did art. It's not just lines, it's not just shapes, it is art. And even it took years even after that to be like, oh, okay, what I do is art. But I remember 2020, a friend, an old high school friend, sent a message to me. And she called me an artist. This was after the Black Lives Matter mural. And she called me an artist. And I remember feeling so crazy in that DM because I had never been called an artist. I never considered myself an artist. Going into that mindset, starting to believe in myself as an artist and considering myself an artist, it's almost like a lifelong thing. Because I'm realizing that I've been an artist my entire life. It's just now manifesting itself via painting. I think the Tampa Bay art community, I mean, and when we talk about Tampa Bay arts community, generally that focuses on St. Pete and Tampa. I would also want to include Bradenton in that nowadays, Bradenton, Sarasota area. It's the best time around here, man. I feel like the Bay Area is in this little renaissance. You've got so many people branching out and starting their own thing. You've got so many different styles of art manifesting, from sculpture work to multimedia to mixed media to murals. Art it's unprecedented in Tampa Bay right now, and I feel like that momentum is just going to keep growing. Yeah, the feeling is indescribable. I couldn't even explain to you how it felt and how it feels still, because even just thinking about it now, it still has, you still get those little tinglies inside sometimes. It was almost full clarification that you are where you need to be. To have artists and people in the community that you look up to also fully respect and appreciate what you do, there's something very powerful in that. I feel like I am where I belong. And I even try to talk to some of these folks, and I give them some of my negative thoughts about how, I feel like what I do is just lines, and I need to become a better artist. Maybe I need to go to school. Maybe I need to learn this or learn color theory or yada, yada, yada. And they tell me, no, whatever you're doing, however you've learned what you've learned, just keep doing that. You don't need any of that other stuff to kind of cloud your process of your journey. Just keep doing you. And it's words of encouragement from folks that you highly respect, and people that I still look up to this day. Yeah.